I found a tracker in my car, so I put it on a cargo truck heading to Canada. But now I've received the strangest call. Have you ever been in a situation where your brain jumps to a conclusion so absurd it can't possibly be true, and yet you can't stop believing it? If you've been in a situation even remotely like this, I need your help. I'm stuck in a scenario where I don't know if I should go left or right, and both options feel like terrible choices. I've started to suspect my wife of something that just can't be true. No, it's not infidelity, though I know that's a common theme in stories like this. It's probably not the case here, or at least, I hope it isn't. Honestly, I have no idea what's going on. Let me explain what's happening. My name is Marco, and I've been happily married to my wife Melissa for several years. She has her flaws, sure, but she's an amazing wife who makes me really happy, and I do my best to do the same for her. I also have a great job, though it requires a lot of travel. Thankfully, it pays really well, so it feels like a fair trade-off, right? You see, Melissa is very suspicious and paranoid. She wasn't like this when we first met. I met Melissa in college, and we quickly became close friends. She was one of the only people, aside from my childhood best friend Liam, with whom I felt comfortable sharing personal stuff. Liam and I did everything together, and over time, Melissa and I grew closer too. Eventually, we started dating. At that point in my life, Melissa seemed absolutely perfect. Almost too perfect, to the point where I wondered if she was hiding something. But we'd been friends for so long that I figured I'd have noticed if she had any big secrets. A few years later, we got married, and I moved in with her. By the way, Liam is still my best friend, and he's married now too. He lives nearby, so our friendship has stayed strong. But back to Melissa. Just a few months into our marriage, I started noticing how distrustful she really was. She didn't try to hide it. When I asked her about it, she was upfront and told me she felt insecure. She said my frequent traveling scared her because she was afraid someone might take me away from her. I won't lie, having a paranoid wife can be frustrating. But in a way, it's also really sweet. The way I see it, she loves me so much she can't stand to be without me for even a moment. That's why she wants to know where I am and what I'm doing all the time. That being said, it's not always easy. Sometimes it gets so annoying that we end up fighting, like when I miss one of her calls and she gets mad at me. But as long as I remind myself that she acts this way because she loves me, our relationship stays strong. To be fair, anyone in my position would need a lot of patience. I honestly think that if Melissa were married to someone else, the relationship wouldn't have lasted. I joke with her sometimes that she's lucky to have me, and she usually agrees with a laugh. That's pretty much how our life goes. Usually I get my work schedule, tell Melissa where I'll be traveling and for how long, and we go through our usual routine. She pretends to get mad, and I make her laugh. But this week was different. A few days ago, I found out I'd need to travel pretty far for a client meeting. Naturally, Melissa wasn't thrilled about me being away for 2 days. When she's upset, she acts like a child, and I have to go all out to convince her. She knows I have to go, but makes a fuss because she finds it amusing when I try to appease her. After promising to take her to her favorite restaurant when I returned, she finally gave in, and we spent a nice day together. The next day, I left for the trip. That afternoon, I had my meeting and then checked into my hotel. The following morning, as I was getting ready to leave, a coworker who had attended the meeting with me called, saying he'd lost his ring and was worried he'd left it in my car. He worked at a nearby branch and had already returned to the office. I told him I'd check and call him back. I stopped at a gas station and began searching every nook and cranny of my car for the ring. I didn't find it. It turns out he'd dropped it somewhere else. But I did find something else. Something small, hidden in a place I never would have checked unless I was searching for something tiny. It was a very small device that looked suspiciously like a tracker. At first, I wasn't 100% sure, but after a closer look, I realized it couldn't be anything else. It was tucked deeply beneath the seat, not something that could have fallen there accidentally. It was securely placed. That's when I started to panic. Why would someone want to track me? I'm not anyone important. My company already knows where I am because of work, and my wife always knows where I am too. Aside from Melissa and my best friend Liam, no one else has access to my car. And Liam has even less of a reason to track me. I looked up the device just to be certain, and sure enough, it was a tracker. After the initial shock, I felt terrified. Who could have put it there? Was someone trying to harm me, my family, or my company? I know it might sound dramatic, but who wouldn't feel alarmed finding a tracker in their car? Once I calmed down, I decided the best thing to do was to throw off whoever was tracking me. If I was in immediate danger, I didn't want to lead that danger back to my wife. I told my company I'd be delayed another day and told Melissa I had extra work. Then I drove aimlessly for a while, checking for anyone following me. I tried everything I'd seen in movies because I'd never been in a situation like this before. Eventually, I felt confident no one was tailing me, so I went back to my hotel to think. The craziest part is that I couldn't figure out how the tracker got there. No one touches my car except for me, Melissa, and Liam. And Melissa's the one who cleans the car because she loves cleaning. It seemed impossible for someone to plant the tracker without one of us noticing. While I was mulling over all this, Melissa called me. That in itself wasn't unusual, but the tone of the call was strange. She asked where I was, which was odd since I'd already texted her. And though she's paranoid, she usually trusts me when I give her an update. This time, though, she started accusing me of lying, calling me a liar, and repeatedly asking where I was. That call was weird, especially since I'd just thrown out the tracker. I even showed her on a video call that I was still in the hotel. Only then did she reluctantly believe me. Her reaction made me start suspecting her. Could her paranoia have pushed her to plant the tracker in my car? She's the only person who could have done it without me noticing. But on the other hand, it seemed absurd. I've never done anything to justify that level of mistrust. And Melissa isn't the type of person who would do something that would hurt me. She'd never betray my trust like that. Or at least, that's what I want to believe. The idea of it being her makes me uncomfortable. After some thought, I decided to let it go and head home. But instead of driving my own car back, I left it at a friend's house and took another vehicle. When I got home, Melissa was furious with me. She kept demanding the truth, refusing to believe my story about the car breaking down and being in the shop for a few days. The weirdest part is that she didn't even pause to consider whether I might be telling the truth. After all these years, you'd think she'd know when I'm lying. But it was like she had already made up her mind. As much as I hate to admit it, her reaction has made me even more suspicious of her. Could she really have done this? If she did, it means she doesn't trust me at all, even after all these years of being completely open with her. So please, I need advice. What should I do? Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and yes, I made a decision. I'm not sure if it was the right one, but unfortunately for me, it's starting to feel like I should have let this whole thing go when I had the chance. Based on what just happened, I think I've woken a bear that might destroy my relationship. Let me explain. I've been thinking a lot, not just for a day or two, but constantly for an entire week. A few days after my last post, my wife's anger seemed to fade. She apologized for her behavior and said she had just been worried. She told me her intuition was telling her something had happened. She asked me one more time if anything was going on, and I told her no. Then she asked me to bring the car back. So, I did. She seemed a bit surprised when I returned it, though. Here's the thing. It was easier to suspect her when she was angry at me. But as soon as she became her usual loving self again, the idea of her being behind any of this became 1,000 times harder to believe. Every time I entertained the thought that she might have planted the tracker, I ended up feeling incredibly guilty. On multiple occasions, I almost told her everything. But something in me said I needed to dig deeper first. After a lot of thought, I decided I needed to investigate further. The problem is, I'm not exactly cut out for investigations. I knew that no matter how hard I tried or how many clues I followed, I probably wouldn't be able to figure anything out. That's why I decided to contact a friend I'd made through work, Dave, the so-called private investigator. I've worked with Dave many times on work-related matters, so I figured he'd be the best person to help me get to the bottom of this. I contacted him and we met up. The first thing he did was warn me. As soon as he realized this was personal, he told me I needed to prepare myself for the consequences because there was a chance we'd uncover something I wouldn't want to know. I agreed and told him everything that had happened. After hearing me out, he gave me the same warning again. He told me he was almost certain I wasn't going to like what we found, and he asked me one last time if I was sure I wanted to go through with it. I won't lie. The second time he warned me, I felt a wave of fear. I started thinking that he must have been so confident my wife was involved that he couldn't help but warn me repeatedly. I mean, if anyone would have a better sense of what was happening here, it would be him, right? Even so, I told him to move forward. I believe it's better to know the truth than to stay in the dark. But now, a week later, I'm starting to regret that decision. It feels like this is turning into something much bigger than I thought. It's not just about whether my wife is involved. There's something else going on here. Today, Dave called me. He said he needed a few more days. He told me he had most of the puzzle pieces but was waiting to fill in some gaps before telling me the whole story. Then he said something that hit me like a ton of bricks. He told me I needed to prepare myself for devastating news. Hearing that broke me. It felt like confirmation that my wife had done this. So, I told Dave I was ready to hear the worst. But his response shook me even more. He said, "It's much worse than either of us imagined," and then hung up the phone. Now, I'm terrified of finding out what's going on. I have this sinking feeling that my relationship is about to fall apart, but at the same time, I don't even know the full story yet. I'll update you all as soon as Dave tells me what he's uncovered. Update 2. Oh my God, you guys, Dave was absolutely right. I wasn't ready for the information he gave me. For those of you who believed in my wife, prepare yourselves for a shock. It's been a few weeks since my last update. Almost a week after I wrote the previous one, Dave asked to meet with me. He apologized in advance for what he was about to tell me, and I was so scared at that point that I was shaking. Then he dropped the bomb. My wife wasn't the only one behind the tracking. My best friend Liam was involved too. At first, I didn't understand what he meant. Then he explained that the two of them were having an affair, and the tracker was their way of keeping tabs on me so they could get away with it. I was stunned. I couldn't even speak. Dave kept talking. He said he didn't know how long this had been going on, but guessed it had been at least a year. Then he showed me photos. Pictures of my wife and Liam kissing in Liam's car. The moment I saw them, I broke down and started crying. You have no idea how this feels. These are the two people I trusted most in the world. Liam is practically family, and his wife is like a sister to me. I couldn't believe it. Not just that my wife would do this, but that he would too. Then Dave told me he wasn't done yet. There was more bad news. For the past few months, my wife had been asking me to transfer ownership of the house my parents live in. Let me give you some context. As soon as I started making good money, I bought a big old house for my parents. When I got married, Melissa and I moved into the house they gifted to me. Melissa had told me she didn't want to move into the big house, but insisted she wanted to own it. She made it seem like it was about fairness, so that we'd both have a house in our names. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. I mean, I never imagined we'd split up. So, I agreed and told her we'd sort it out in a few months. I didn't give it much thought after that, and she never brought it up again. Probably to avoid raising suspicion. But now Dave was telling me that her plan was to take the house, kick my parents out, and then leave me. I couldn't believe it. My wife isn't that kind of person. Or so I thought. Dave showed me a recording, though the audio wasn't super clear. Still, it was enough to make me believe him. Honestly, if I hadn't already discovered so much, I might not have believed him. But at that point, I had no other choice. After that, Dave asked me what I was going to do. I told him I didn't know and that I needed time to think. But deep down, I'd already decided. I wasn't going to let her and Liam get away with this so easily. I treated them like family. I would have taken a bullet for either of them. I can't even put into words how much it hurts to learn the truth. I think you can understand why I decided to take revenge, right? So here's my plan. After meeting with Dave, I placed small recorders, ones he recommended, all over the house and in both of our cars. And let me tell you, these recorders are excellent. I also installed hidden cameras to collect as much evidence as possible. The plan is simple. I'm going to create fake documents to transfer the house to my wife. Once she thinks the house is hers, she won't wait long to execute her plan. And when she does, I'll expose her and Liam in front of everyone. It's time for the truth to come out. Update 3. Finally, I have some good news to share. It's been over 2 months since my last update, so let me get straight to it. A week after my last update, I had everything I needed. I told my wife that I'd made the arrangements to transfer the house to her. A few days later, she reminded me, and I told her the process was already underway. I even signed the fake papers and handed the house over to her. She seemed thrilled throughout the whole process. During this time, I hadn't spent any time with Liam for weeks, which was making things feel strange. So I forced myself to go out with him one night. Every second was pure torture, but I did it because I knew that revenge was coming. As expected, my wife waited a few weeks before executing her plan, and when she did, it played out exactly how I thought it would. She went to my parents' house and kicked them out, claiming that she was leaving me and that the house now belonged to her. I played dumb and acted like I had no idea what was happening. I contacted her parents, and together with mine, I went to confront her. I also called Liam, pretending I needed his help with this mess. I timed it perfectly, knowing his wife was with him, so he had no choice but to bring her along. Here's where it gets good. When I arrived at the house with both sets of parents, Melissa's mom asked her what she was doing. My wife then launched into a sob story, painting herself as the victim. She claimed I was a terrible husband, that I drank all the time and beat her whenever I felt like it. She even accused me of forcing her to terminate pregnancies when she wanted children. She said all of this in front of everyone and made it sound so convincing, like she deserved an Oscar. Then Liam and his wife arrived. I realized Melissa was expecting Liam to back her up as part of their larger scheme. Still acting clueless, I asked Melissa what she was talking about. I denied her lies in front of everyone, and that's when Liam stepped forward. Liam, trying to look like the hero, confirmed Melissa's story. He claimed he'd witnessed some of my supposed behavior and said Melissa had begged him for help. He even said that, though he cared about me, he couldn't stop me from becoming a monster. Honestly, their performance was impressive. It looked like the families were starting to believe them. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I asked them to come clean or I would. Of course, they refused, so I told everyone the truth. I revealed that Melissa and Liam had been having an affair and that this whole thing was part of their plan. The look of confusion on their faces was priceless. They couldn't figure out how I knew. Then I pulled out the evidence. Photos, recordings, and even videos of the two of them sneaking around behind my back. Dave had given me so much proof that there was no room for doubt. The moment I showed everything, it was game over. Melissa's parents were in shock. Her mom, furious, slapped her across the face when she tried to explain. Liam's wife, meanwhile, turned to him. And you guessed it. He got slapped too. I turned to Melissa and told her the papers were fake and that we were done. She started crying and begging, but I didn't care. Her mom announced that Melissa was no longer part of their family and that she never wanted to see her again. I also told her she'd be receiving divorce papers soon. At the same time, Liam's wife announced that she was leaving him and filing for divorce as well. Liam, enraged, tried to hit me, But I was ready. I grabbed him and threw him to the ground. My dad called the police and Liam was arrested. Melissa was thrown out of the house despite her desperate pleas. Later, her mom apologized to me, and I assured her it wasn't her fault. When I got home that night, I found Melissa waiting for me. She begged, saying she had nowhere to go. I told her I didn't care and shut the door on her. It's been almost a month since then, and we're now in the middle of divorce proceedings. Liam's wife moved out and also filed for divorce. Liam, meanwhile, is struggling. You won't believe this, but he contacted me last week begging for help. He said he couldn't pay his bills and needed financial assistance from his old friend. I told him he didn't deserve to use the word friend and that even enemies would have done less harm than he did. Then I left him to deal with his mess. As for Melissa, the last I heard, she tried to return to her family, but they refused to take her in. Her parents made it clear to everyone that she's no longer part of their family. She stayed with some friends for a while, but they couldn't help her much and eventually kicked her out too. Now she's practically homeless. As for me, I'm doing okay. Well, as okay as someone in my position can be. Update 4. I'm only writing this update because so many of you have asked how my life is going and whether the divorce is finalized. The short answer is yes, everything is much better now, especially since I'm no longer legally tied to that woman. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks ago, and honestly, these have been the best 3 weeks I've had in a very long time. Liam's divorce from his wife was finalized before mine, and if he was already struggling financially, things have only gotten worse for him now that he has to pay alimony. From what I've heard, he's hit rock bottom. Apparently, he even tried getting back together with my ex-wife. During one of the divorce hearings, my ex told me she wasn't seeing Liam anymore and suggested we start over. I just looked her in the eyes and said, "Yes, we will start over, on our own." She began crying loudly, and her lawyer had to comfort her while she stared at me like I was the villain in all of this. I honestly found it kind of funny. My lawyer later suggested I speak to her as little as possible, and I've been following that advice. What I don't understand is why my ex thinks telling me she's no longer seeing Liam is enough to make me want to take her back. That's not what I want at all. The whole point of this divorce is to get as far away from her as possible. I know some of you have called me naive for not seeing the red flags earlier, like her controlling behavior whenever I traveled for work. Yes, in hindsight, that probably should have been the first sign to get out of the marriage. But let me tell you something. For people on the spectrum, it's not always easy to recognize these things. For me, it's always been easier to work with computers and servers than with people. That's why I chose this career in the first place. It's logical, clear, and straightforward. Negotiating or reading people's intentions? That's a different story entirely. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I want you to understand why this wasn't so simple for me. I wish things were different, but this is something I've dealt with my entire life. I could tell you countless stories of people taking advantage of me, but I don't want to get sidetracked from the main issue here. What happened with my ex-wife hurt deeply. I never expected this from someone who vowed to love me and stay faithful. Now, my expectations are much lower, and while that might sound sad, it's a way to protect myself. I can't promise something like this won't happen again, but I'm more aware now, and I'll be more cautious moving forward. As for Liam, many of you have asked about him. As I mentioned before, he lost the case against his ex-wife and now has to pay alimony. He's living in a terrible place. At least that's what his ex told me. She and I have stayed in touch throughout this whole process, as a lot of the evidence I gathered helped her during her divorce. She recently told me she's met someone new, which seems to have really upset Liam. Apparently, after everything came to light, he apologized to her multiple times, but she didn't accept his apologies, just like I didn't. As for whether Liam and my ex-wife are together now, I honestly don't know. I don't talk to my ex anymore, and Liam's ex-wife doesn't know either. Oh, one more thing. I forgot to mention the outcome of my divorce settlement. My ex didn't get alimony, and she couldn't claim either of the houses. The house I gave to my parents was always in their name. And the house we lived in originally was set to pass to me through inheritance, so she had no claim to it. In short, she left the marriage with almost nothing, and that was because of her infidelity. So that's where things stand now. I'm doing well, as well as someone in my position can be. It's been a hard road, but I'm moving forward. Thank you all for your support.